I was thinking about relationships and maybe relationships being mirrors for us that we kind of project so we can see the things that we need to work on us. And
Most
then I think the mental part, the rational part, maybe is easier for me, but I think the emotional triggers, sometimes they are more reactive. And after the fact, I have clarity. But while interacting with people, the emotions come up first, and then you react on it. And then later on, you put it in perspective and you try to manage it. So I had two questions. One is like, I think I have a hard time understanding and learning how to process emotion because I try to rationalize it. And sometimes that makes me deny them. And the other one is, do we evolve to have true relationships that we see other people on a soul level and not through our mirrors and projections?
that would be a progression from the emotional onward up to the point where I that I had addressed Donnie just a little earlier when we're talking about then you move up on that mental plane, and like the people at the end of the Cosmic Consciousness book who have an epiphany where they see a larger realm, a grander scale, and they've been lifted up to get that vision, and it changes them for life, but they come back and they know everything is okay. Okay. So Donnie and I think have conversations every once in a while about this, but people will you can get to a point where you look at things in a matter of this is what is. It's just that simple. So there's people who go off on tangents. There's all kinds of diatribes that people give, all kinds of mental evaluations of wherever is. But at a certain point, as you move up that chart that he's got here, you move up onto that Buddhic plane, because that Buddhic plane is a plane of what is. It's the same one that you're going to get with the quantum. It's what is. And so I don't know if it was you, Donnie, or somebody else. I don't know who was spinning off, but it was like, okay, well, in my case, I don't take that personally. I just look and say, well, that's where they are today. Simple. That's what's coming out of their mouth today.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, look at that.
right.
Yeah.
Although I should remember, I have a daughter who's an Aquarius, and she was, I'm trying to figure out what age. She had to be 2 or 3, and she could. And my mother had spanked me and spanked me and spanked me when I was young, and it did nothing other than just create a very strong will, because I figured, okay, I took the punishment, now I can do the crime as many times as I want. You know, kind of thing. That was my attitude. But anyway, so she was always, I was very willful, and she couldn't control me. So anyway, so I did not spank my children, but by the same token, and this was in a kitchen setting where you've got she had the tall chairs, and then there was the counter, and I was on the other side with the spoons and the sink and all this and that. And I don't know what she did, but I was upset. So I just got a spatula, and I'm banging the spatula on the counter and saying, you cannot do this. And I could just read her face. Wow, look at her go. You know, and because I was never going to hit her or anything, but I have to express this somehow and make this point to her. But she was just, woo, I could just read her. We got her going this time. So the point is, I was aware, even when, you know, when she's saying this, I'm thinking, yeah, this is what I'm doing, but I'm doing it because I'm not going to go where my mother went, blah, blah. So it's just a matter of, as you move up there, those those levels and you're up in the mental plane, you're going to pull out of getting engaged in that astral plane. It's not going to trigger you. You get up into the spiritual triad and, you know, you may be down here, but you are no longer, once you move up into that spiritual triad, you're not involved with this astral. You've already done all of that. That's how you made it up to the second initiation. Annie Besant says you don't take an initiation on a plane until you have every every vibration on that whole plane. Okay. And believe me, you've had a long time to add them up, so it's not like that's a giant task. I've heard people say, oh, well, it can't possibly be that, you know, but we've been here for eons of time. We started out as dirt.
Yeah. Well, the whole evolution really puts it all together for you. I mean, it's really putting it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice.
And
Yeah.
then sometimes when you don't engage with people the same way because you don't have the triggers anymore, those relationships just end.
Mhm.
And I think part of the path has been letting go of a lot of people.
Well, I would look at it this way, because I do chart comparisons. Okay. And even before I was ever doing those, I realized that you make a connection with somebody to have an exchange. Whatever there is that you need, you have the exchange. When you got it, then there's no
It's done.
attraction anymore. Okay. There's no magnetic attraction. It's been done. So when I look at charts where if somebody would come to me and say, I'm planning on marrying this person, and there's one connection in the chart, I'm saying that ain't happening. Because as soon as whatever that little exchange was with this one planet combination, they don't have any reason or any magnetic connection to interact with each other anymore. It holds no magnetism. You find people where they maybe have 5 connections of planets that, not the same planets, but in the same sign and degree. They may meet and never part again from that day. And that's the glue that holds them together, because they've got a lot of stuff that is working on the same issues.
Sense.
Is the way I've looked at it. Because again, it's magnetic scenario. We are electromagnetic creatures.
So interesting.
Yeah. And as you move out, that's why, well, first of all, this is, I'm probably beating a dead horse at this point, because people will come along and they do astrology or something because it's spiritual. Okay. Or they want to be more spiritual. Okay. But a lot of them, the way I look at it, they come to me or they come to somebody else. They're not looking for spiritual. They want a better house, a better car, a better boyfriend, you know, whatever. Okay. And they don't realize that the spiritual world, which starts with the Buddhic plane and that spiritual triad, you don't have a body, you don't have a house, you don't live in physical form, so you don't need a car. In other words, all the things they need, you don't need if you were going into the spiritual world, up into that spiritual triad. But that's to most of them, you know, not that they shouldn't be going to look for astrology or something like that. It can help them understand there's actually a patterns and grids here. And if you didn't have it, and this one functions on basically a system of 12 signs, and and so on and so forth, and the commonality and then the interaction, so you can get an infinite amount of unique combinations over time. But that's our basis for a commonality too. And when you get the 12 houses that it is where it happens in the world, those houses reflect the qualities that we need and value as a humanity to create a society that can function. So, you know, that's kind of, without it, and I keep saying this, you would have a world that was like the bar scenes in the Star Wars initially. You would have all of, because we look similar, you know, we have basic similar values of home, mother, father, that's how you got here, place where you generally lived, probably some siblings, and you go through certain processes of education and so on and so forth. And so we have a high degree of commonality because we're all working from a same basic grid combination that then twists and turns and has umpteen unique scenarios. Just like, I suppose, let's assume that we've got a full society on Mars. I'm going to assume that they originated there, so they probably wouldn't look like us, wouldn't have the same value system, the same background, the same history, so on and so forth. But that's the value of being programmed on this system and within this system, and then go back to DK, and I think it's white magic, Johnny, I think is where somebody brings up the concept of free will. And the basic answer was, well, you're getting messages and data from Mercury,
Yeah,
and Jupiter, and your Saturn, and you're out with Uranus and Pluto. What did you say about free will? What was the question? That was what DK says. So we're interacting with this whole complex of data interacting, and it's all work, but it's all a system we're working with down here. A form of programming.
yeah. The understand in Cosmic Fire, he talks about that he goes through the schemes and the chains and the globes and starts to connect the dots on how each of the schemes are connected, and basically the planets are the schemes too, and how they're all connected to each other. And so, and he does get into Mars and some of the life on the other systems essentially, and how we're connected to it, and how, you know, basically how those lines are drawn is how we're basically experiencing this and rotating and then just all changing. And yeah,
and
no, it's quite
for rocks, that's not such a big deal, but we now have a degree of consciousness where we start to become aware of it. I mean, because it's doing the same thing to rocks at that point in terms of what we're doing with the mineral kingdom, what gems are being created. I mean, all that kind of stuff. But we're not aware of that, but we're conscious. So now we can play around with some of this and really make our heads go dizzy.
Yeah, because we're receiving that from them all the time, so we don't know what the heck is going on, really.
And so it's just like if I do a chart and I do the transits, and those of you who've had it done for a while realize those transits occur, right?
Yes.
And they come on time. Okay. And they don't stop. You know, every year you got more. And this circle's just going around, and whatever's in it is getting hit like a ping pong ball every so often with a ping pong ball every so often. So yeah, it doesn't stop. It is there. And so if that's it, and that's really generally the way that you behave, how are you going to behave any other way? Where would you even get the motivation to do something different than what's there? And most people don't even know the operating program is there, and they don't know the transitory programs are there, and they don't realize that we have senders and receivers on every membrane, cell membrane of our body. We are up to date at all times. We are kept up to date. So, and somewhere in DK, he talks about that compilation of keeping up to date, and he expands it to a point where he indicates that there's us little up to date with our soul. It keeps up to date. So if you kick the bucket or are gone, even accidentally, everything is still up to date that gets stored in that soul at that instant. Because it's always updated. That's why they came up. I mean, they're right. Santa Claus knows what you do, whether you've been naughty or nice and all that stuff. It's really true. And so, but he then talks about we are up to date. Our planet is up to date. There, in other words, there's a degree of consciousness that's capable of having all of that. And then he talks about various systems until he's saying the universe is got I don't want to say computer system, but let's say that for a minute, that is able to have all of it up to date always. That there is a degree of consciousness that is that expansive. He puts it in better ways than I do, but that's the gist of it. And that, so that's why when they talk about an incarnation, it's not the soul that determines where you're going to be born. Everybody will tell you that. Well, your soul picked it. This is where you're supposed to be. Because the soul on the third level of the mental plane would not have the perspective, the grand perspective to where to put you in to get the full object of the soul, plus not negatively impinging on the environments that expand out from it. So they are cosmic lords of karma. There's 4 of them, which I imagine are the heads of your lower cosmic planes, by the way. We're on a cosmic physical. There's the cosmic astral, cosmic mental, and the cosmic Buddhic. And so it isn't our soul that decides we drop here, because it's looking at a larger picture with a larger things that can come out from wherever we position. And how is it going to affect, like little wavelets, everything else? And the people and they want to keep you a lot of times with the same people that you keep working with, family after family, and all that stuff. And so, and we're here in this realm thinking we've got it all. And, and that so-and-so knows what's right for everybody else, and blah, blah, blah. Dream on.
Yeah, I don't know if I can pull this up, if this will help. I showed my kids the picture of the scheme set up. That's in here. Let me see if I can find it. It kind of fits with what we're talking about. Oh, I saved the page here. I sent Tom a picture. Uh, did you see that picture I sent you, Tom? About the little meatball in the middle of Times Square? Carla, all right, and I'll try to send it to you guys, but there's a picture where somebody did the mathematical equation on the size of a human being, the weight of a human being. They multiplied it times seven, almost 8 billion, and then they determined the size of what the whole entire population of the world would be if it were a ball. And basically it you can put the bottom of this sphere in the middle of Central Park without moving into the city. And then it's very tall. It's a big ball, but it's about 1 kilometer. A 1 kilometer ball is what you could fit every human being on the planet. So, and then, there's a lot of jokes about that because it's a totally new perspective, but it's like, oh, so this little tiny pinhead is what is affecting this whole planet. No, I don't think it's, our carbon consumptions and stuff. It's all, no. So it's pretty funny. But it really does put things in perspective, but the chart in Cosmic Fire puts things into perspective too. I'll have to find it. I'll send it. I can't find it right now for whatever reason. I've got it saved here too.
No, that's just the way it is. It's just like DK had indicated when he started putting this out. He says, do not go and pick a theme and just bring everything forward of that theme. He says, don't do it that way. In other words, read it, but don't just compile, which is what they did with Ponder on Us. So eventually they listen. Okay.
Oh, here it is. I don't know if you can see this. Let me see if I can adjust my screen a little bit.
The white piece of paper. There, I see a little bit of it. Yeah.
So this is
what page?
It's 373.
373.
It's the divine septenary hanging from the triad, thus forming the decad and its permutations. But it's the solar septenary chart, and basically there's seven globes in a chain, and this is the round, the scheme, but we're on this one tiny little ball down here, like, of what's going on around here. And we're connected to all these other planets, which are schemes, and then the chains, and it's just and then the globes. So we're just a minuscule little part in this whole big thing.
We haven't been encouraged to understand that either. In fact, we've probably been discouraged from, at the moment, so to speak, in relative moments, let's say the last 100 years even, discouraged from becoming more aware of that and our synthesis into the system, because they're trying to, I grew up understanding the need for carbon for the plant kingdom, and that the oxygen, carbon, and the exchange between what the trees give you and what you give back in terms of breathing in, breathing out, breathing, and so on and so forth. And it's been just turned around. But the people in later years didn't get that education. Kind of thing. So there's been all I'm saying is there's been a great deal of effort to really turn some stuff around here that causes dysfunction for us, and a lack of education, a lack of awareness. things we should know, things we did know. And then they talk about we used to have 12 strands of DNA. I don't know whether we did or not, but we've got people out there saying now, oh, we used to be so much more advanced. Well, there may well have been civilizations that were more advanced in a given type of development in exactly the way that you're talking about the rounds.
Right, right.
And something comes to its fruition, and then what? You're starting another one with a whole different set of dynamics. You've got all these variables that show up and do their thing in their cycle and their round, or however you want to look at it. So I think people are, well, it could be just about anybody. I know some of the younger people are getting oohed and awed now because, oh, these pyramids, and they might be connected, and they used to have electricity running through these wires all the way around the planet that were hooked up to something on the chimney of the pyramid or something. And it's like, they go gaga and go nuts over it, but they don't have any other background to have any perspective with it. It's never been given to them. And I think when I grew up, our civilization was 5,000 years old.
Right.
That's how old humanity was. It was the two ages, the Aryan age and the Piscean age. So it was the age of Judaism and Christianity. And that was our total history that we got, certainly on this planet, in terms of church and religion and our longevity. The other stuff never existed. So I would expect we weren't getting much information before the flood, except there were bad people and we had to drown them. That's pretty much it, right? And for some reason, there was nothing wrong with that. And we must be going through another cycle like that right now. And maybe it happens at the end of each age, for all I know. Although I'm under the impression that you may wipe some people out, but they have a soul and that doesn't get destroyed. Maybe the form does, but not the soul.